Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. Whether it's happening on the track, in the paddock, or beyond the grid, we'll talk about it all. And welcome back. I am Claire, as everyone should know by now.
I'm Diane.
Oh my gosh. Before we get into everything, how has your week been?
Good. Very good. Very busy, but
You're
always is.
You're always busy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's as we talked about, I am in the United States. My son's wedding celebration is next weekend, so it's going to make it very difficult for me to actually watch the race. There's no signal, he says, out where the venue is, which I'm already starting to have panic attacks about.
It'll be okay.
But so I'm sitting in northern Alabama right now.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. You know, the time changed in Europe this morning.
I saw that I saw the UK, so I'm just assuming everything else. Well, that's kind of nice. I'll be only 8 hours behind you instead of 9 once you're back.
Yeah, and then next week it changes in the US. But of course, you don't change. So
I don't change.
But of the wedding,
it always screws me up at work because my calendar doesn't change, but any calendar invites I have out there, so I have to do that tomorrow. And it's one of those things that is always completely anxiety ridden for me because I never get it right. And then then I'll go and look and I'll be like, wait, now how are they 2 hours different? It needs to be 1. I never get it right. So yeah, the anxiety is ramping up already for tomorrow as I change all of my meetings.
Well, your calendar changes next Sunday. Yeah. The US. Yeah.
But I'm going to change my invites. They don't start until most of them until the week after.
When I lived out in Arizona, I remember I would always make sure I would book my calendars in Eastern time zone just so I never worried about it. Like I'd always book it in Eastern because in that way I just knew my calendars. And when I was booking with people outside of Arizona, because then I knew my calendar was going to change, but because it was with customers and stuff. And anyway, all right, well, enough of that. Let's get into the crazy weekend. I used that word because you and I said that a bunch during messaging while we were watching it. So that's when I posted one word, crazy. It was a crazy weekend, crazy race.
What a race. It did not disappoint. The race did not disappoint. The weekend did not disappoint. Starting at the beginning, with FP1 and all the way through. Mexico is always a good time. They always go all out with the people dressed in the Dia de los Muertos. Hopefully I just said that right.
Come on, it's your heritage.
I know. That's why I'm like, shoot. I mean, my mom, anyways.
And your mom's one of our biggest fans. So she's going to give you grief. Said it wrong.
I will know if that was not correct. But I love that they always have everybody is dressed up and just it's so colorful and the music. And I've said this before, but the Mexican or even just overall Hispanic fans are so passionate for their countries and their sports and even their beauty contestants, like beauty queens, they are passionate and you just feel that vibe. And so then you add everything from FP1, what happened there, all the way through the race today. And oh my gosh, what a weekend. Absolutely incredible.
What you're saying about the culture and everything, that's what my partner and I, we were just talking about. I was going through, the web, the internet to try to get pictures for the sites. I'm about to pull up and show the lids and everything. And we were just looking at it all, the pomp and circumstance, right? All the beauty and the colors, it's so colorful and all the revelry and whatnot that you saw around the weekend. I'm like, that would be a fun race to attend because there's just so much going on and so much celebration and tradition. And I would love to go see that in person because that just looks fascinatingly fun.
Definitely. It has to be on the list. It has to be. Okay. I don't even know where to begin.
We start with the lids and liveries.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see what was out on
that. Let's do that.
I loved Oh my gosh. Okay, here's Checo's. And Checo, his home race, they absolutely love him there. If you don't even know, like the amount of sponsors that Checo brings to Red Bull is ridiculous. He's got big names, like we're talking Disney and McDonald's and stuff like that, that come in and give money just for him. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what a great thing this lit is. It's amazing. Never give up on the back. Amazing.
I love the mask, and the whole team took pictures with the mask on too.
Yes.
In the garage. I thought that was really cool.
The mask is incredible on top of that. Just how special. I mean, the weekend didn't turn out, I think, as special as he would have liked, and we'll talk about that. But
that's
really
in a row too that he just did not have a good home race. Just
no. And I feel like I was trying to remember if it was last year where he crashed out in the first race 2 years ago. Oh,
it was last year, because that was the first year I watched. And
yes. Yeah. So sad.
So sad. Alonso, this helmet is just amazing.
I'm obsessed with this helmet.
400 races is amazing. That is a milestone. No other racer's done it.
No. And let's not forget that he left the sport for 2 years, full years. He left the sport in 2018 or 2019, whatever it was. And he went and did, the what is that? I was going to say Drakkar. Is that, I think that's a Cologne. What is that endurance race? He did that. He did Indy a couple times. Like, he was out doing different things. He left the sport for 2 years and still has 400 race starts. Insane. And what a career.
Yeah.
I
love this and all the things that they've done with it. What I really love, this logo that they did with his name with the 400 mix in it. As I told you, I had to order the t-shirt because I thought it was so cool. I love what they did with the graphic. You and I were talking too, F1 put out that image that showed all the current racers on the grid, how old they were when Alonso premiered.
Yeah.
Some of them weren't even born yet. So
some were just teeny tiny babies.
It's amazing to think just what he's seen and how he's seen the sport evolve, how he's seen the cars evolve and the technology. And, I was just watching earlier too with my partner. He and I were watching like spectacular crashes over the years and whatnot. And throughout the years, you're like, and Alonso, and like Alonso, I'm like, whoa, because he's just been around for so long. It's fascinating. And I think they said before him it was 256 or something like that. So that was the largest number. And now it's like 400.
And that's just going to keep growing. We still have 4 more races this year. So he'll be at 404. And we know he has a contract for 2 more years.
Yeah, he said, I listened to an interview and he said, he's definitely 2025 and 2026. He's racing those. He said, and at the end of that, he said he'll see what he, Lawrence, and Adrian, because that was right when they were signing Adrian, and what he and Lawrence and Adrian decide what's best for him and the team. Yeah. So he's definitely got 2 years, at least 2 years of racing inning.
Yeah. And if they don't even add any more races, he'll be at 450 when he stops. So as long as he's able to race them all, that's so impressive. And to hear the drivers talk about what, how much respect they have for Fernando, how a lot of them talked about how hungry he still is, how much love he has for the sport. It's very inspiring.
It is.
I'm very happy to see that this weekend.
And it's a record you don't anticipate being broken in a long time. And I love what they did with the garage.
Oh, I love that. It's what they should. I love the wreath, the laurel wreath that they had, and like you said, the logo. I mean, everything was spot on. Very, very classy way to honor him, Aston Martin. Very, very nice.
It is just too bad that he isn't performing well, or the car isn't performing well, because this would have been a cool race to win, and then a cool tattoo. But
yeah,
I did submit a question for the FAQ thing that they did. My question was not picked to be answered, but it was cool listening to some of the answers. And one asked for what tattoo should they get, and whatever they said they would go get. And he suggested something inspired by Japanese culture.
Oh, yes, because we know that he is very inspired by that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
Yeah,
he can,
it was so sad that he retired the car today, like, and
I
early
know.
on. That was I don't know what the issue was with his car. Something clearly happened. I just never heard what it was. And I
And
thought, not today. Not today when it's number 400. Like, I'm sure he wanted to finish in the points, and
yeah, yeah.
that's
All
disappointing.
right,
Woo, look at
Carlos.
this. Carlos.
Another amazing one. It's interesting. Like I think all the Hispanic drivers had a special lid, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I like this. I like that it's just fun and it's playful. And again, if you're not on our YouTube, you're missing out on the lids. But it has the skull and lots of white and orange and just different stars and swirls and the whole 9 yards. Just very nice. And of course, the 55, a little bit different logo than what he or font than he usually uses for his number, but it works. Like it all works together.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah. And then Charles. Oh, this helmet also. And I like that Charles keeps always with his red and white.
Yeah,
He always uses the Monaco colors. And I think it's very cool how it's got Mexico 2024 on the top, but it's got the beautiful pattern, coming off the side. And it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And Charles was on one this weekend. Like he arrived on media day, I think, with his mariachi costume and did a little mariachi thing. And yeah,
I was included an image of that because oh my gosh, he looked quite adorable in it.
Yeah, it was cute. It was very cute, but he was definitely on it. But again, he's one of those drivers. I love how he keeps he's true to his theme.
Yeah.
And then Joe, I was kind of surprised that Joe had a special helmet this weekend, but I like it.
Yeah, and I totally missed it because with me being here with all the wedding planning and whatnot, I haven't been as on top of the TV this weekend and whatnot, so I missed it. And of course, Joe just hasn't performed much this year. They just didn't feature him that much, so I completely missed that he had it. It's a really cool. I like the metallic front and all that. I think it's a really slick helmet.
Is it supposed to be like one of those masks?
It kind of does look like that.
Yeah.
You can see like the eyes coming up.
That's what I think tipped me off. It was just the wing looking thing on the side that I was like, I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure. But Joe is, he's pretty understated. Like he's always very classy with his style. So I can see like it's a subtle nod is what I would think. But yeah, I like it. And then Franco,
I love it being that he's just a couple, just started and he's already got a special lid. So I think that's kind of cool.
I thought the same thing too. I thought, well, look at you, buddy. Like, look at you getting out there with your special lid. I love it. He is a big deal. Oh my gosh, he is a big deal. He even talked about it today after the race, how all of the Latin countries really support each other. And he said he felt very supported in Mexico. But this is a tribute to the late Carlos Reutemann. I don't know. I don't know who that is. I'm going to have to look that up. But it definitely means something. And it's got the yellow and blue colors, the Brazil colors. I think it's very cool.
It's Argentinian colors, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Brazil? I'm thinking the next race.
Yeah. Here's the interesting thing, mentioning Brazil, because of Ayrton Senna. Did you see people are comparing him? He looks so much like a young Ayrton Senna.
I saw somebody say that he's Ayrton's son. And
compared side by side, and my partner and I were looking at because he loves Ayrton Senna. Like he grew up watching him, and there's a side by side picture of them facing opposite ways in almost the exact same pose, and they look like twins.
Oh,
yeah, he's the spitting image of Ayrton Senna. So it's kind of kismet that you said Brazil. I'm like, well, kind of. And it's kind of interesting having that yellow with the blue because then Williams has their livery where they added the yellow.
throwback to when they were champions. Yes, like or one of the times they do have a great storied history. It's just the last few years haven't been that awesome. But I kind of liked this. They were easy to spot on track, so it was good. It was really I like it. It's not my favorite Williams livery.
No.
I'm still all about the flag from Silverstone 2 years ago. For sure, one of my hands down favorite liveries, but it's nice. I think it's a nice nod. For sure. Speaking of like Franco, hang on. So FP1, we saw a bunch of reserve drivers or junior drivers racing in FP1. One of them was Pato O'Ward, and if people aren't familiar with him, he is a McLaren driver, but he drives in Indy. But he's from Mexico, and I think he really does want to be an F1. And they showed a picture of him. I don't know when it was, Tuesday, Wednesday. He was at some signing. The place was packed. Like, I think that if Checo ends up leaving the sport, somebody needs to move Pato over. And he's, I guess, been talking about how Indy needs to have a race down there because, I mean, they are with him like they are with Checo. It was insane, absolutely insane. So
interesting.
Kind of fun to see him.
It was neat to see that in FP1, because as we talked about, as they get closer to this end, and there being so many sprint races, and there's so few places for them to get the requirement of running the rookies, right? Because they have to run 2 rookies per season.
Yeah.
And they're running at a time. It was interesting, and it made it really difficult this weekend too, because then Pirelli also had them testing tires. So they gave them that 30 minutes extra in FP2 because of them running tire testing in FP2, because they had to see 4, 5, and 6 running, which was
rough.
It was just, I think it's a crazy weekend. There was just so much going on with this weekend. But it was an interesting weekend. We had a red flag in FP1 and FP2, or is it?
We had multiple red flags in FP1, right? Didn't we?
I think so. There was
more than one for sure. Obviously, Alex Albon. Oh my God, what he has done to that car this weekend, and in FP1, it was his fault. He got squeezed out today in the race. Like, there was nowhere for him to go. It was just horrible luck. But that car has been repaired multiple times. Charles' car, was messed up from that same incident. Yuki was in qualifying. Yuki crashed in qualifying. George crashed in FP2.
Then Alex, he that ran into Ollie, right? And then it was
Alex ran into Ollie.
And then it was like the whole idiot comment. Then he came back. It's like, well, did he say idiot about him, or did he say idiot about Ollie? It's like, well, he was in the wrong, not Ollie. Oh my gosh.
Ollie was not necessarily in a great space, and I think twice, because Carlos almost got caught out by somebody else. He just was warned way too late. I don't remember who was coming through. So I'm not sure if it was a combination of Ollie's engineer did not tell him with enough time, and he was just on a slow part of the corner. He was not on the racing line, though. No. And then Alex hitting the curb and losing the back end, because the whole weekend, well, at least during all the practices and qualifying, the rear end, traction was an issue. And so he hit that. I just don't think there was anywhere for him to go. But with George's crash, that's 3 crashes for Mercedes in the last 2 weeks. And Toto said he's concerned about they're going to violate the cost cap because they keep having all of these crashes at the end of the season.
Yeah, after you said that, you'd said you'd heard that today when I saw them battling, with the 2 Mercedes battling. All I could think of is they told them to race and they told them to battle. It's like, okay, that's great, but I was getting anxiety, guys. You're going to take both of you out, then you're really going to go over the cost cap. I was having anxiety for them and just wondering if Toto was sitting there very stoic but dying inside.
I don't know. I think they told them to race, but they needed to to be smart. And
Yeah, they
I
did.
don't think that they were going. I mean, they were obviously racing each other, but it wasn't like some of the Ferrari battles where they're wheel to wheel, and it's just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, that could be interesting not only for Mercedes, but some of the other teams. Williams, I mean, we know Sargent crashed his car a bazillion times before they let him go. And now Alex, the last few weeks, he's had, issues. And I mean, it could be several teams that has a problem. It was kind of good that both George and Max did not have to take a penalty. They did not have to take new engines or
Mhm.
anything. They used ones that were already in the rotation, but that just means they have to hold out the next 4 races and hope that they don't.
Could you imagine if Alex, if Max had a penalty today, considering what happened today?
Well, he never. If he had a penalty, he wasn't going to be anywhere near the front of the pack and would
That's
never.
true. But maybe that works out, that he'll end up with something happens and now he'll have more penalties later in the year because, we're just because now mathematically it's becoming more and more possible that he may not win.
Oh my gosh, the whole world is like, yes.
There had to have been a collective scream. That the social media groups are just insane right now with,
Oh, I haven't looked at
Max has got his thing. And it was interesting today hearing the commentators, though, literally saying things like, he should have got one last week.
Yeah.
That like when they were reviewing those 2 things that happened today, to literally say, if he doesn't get one for the first one, he better get one for the second one. That was more egregious. And when it came for the first one, I mean, we might as well just get into it. I mean, that one alone,
Yeah,
that I was
called him dangerous.
yes.
The commentators on F1 TV, that is very dangerous. And the drivers' meeting the other night, I guess, went very long. And so this is what has been said, because we're not going to hear details. None of the drivers are going to say anything, and the people that were there are probably sworn to secrecy and can say very little. But what they have said is the meeting went very long, that there were a lot of drivers who wanted to know why Max did not get a penalty. George is like head of the driver, I don't know, what do you call it? The drivers group. Like he's in charge, which totally does not surprise me. But I forget that he is in charge until I see it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And that there were direct conversations or direct comments between Max and Lando. So there were probably a little bit passionate things, going on. And they're even the commentators today said that there were drivers that were starting to pull the same maneuver that Max did in Austin and what he also did today, which is lifting up off the brake, and making it look like he's in the right. And it's dangerous. It's not okay. And you could hear Lando on the first, I guess it was turn 4, where he said, this is, or maybe it was turn 8, when the second one, where he said he ran me off the road. I was in front. He's going to push me into the wall. Like, he is dangerous. And, even Lando's saying it. It is typical Max when to me, he fights dirty. He did it with Lewis, a few years ago, and he will push you off the track to get his way.
Yeah. And the only one he was really fighting with was Lando. And even the commentators talking about today, he wasn't fighting against the Ferraris. He didn't care. The only one who's care about is Lando, because that's who's got the hardest chance of taking him out right now, which is interesting because the Ferraris are the ones who are about to knock Red Bull out of second in the constructors. Like, don't think about just yourself. Your team is about to lose second place in the constructors because you're being an idiot.
He did go hard against Sainz in that first turn and even into the next one. But I think he was doing the same thing, and then he just ended up, tingling up with Lando at that point.
The other thing that it was interesting with him is that he, at least maybe it's my perception, I'm a little, I'll admit I'm a little jaded here, but what I seem to see in a pattern with him is when things aren't going right in his way, he's not in front, right? all of a sudden it's like, I don't have good tires. The steering's not right. The grip's not good. This, and granted, some of that might be happening, but it's never, I'm not feeling it. Like I screwed up. Like you hear these other drivers come out. I didn't have a good driving day. I messed up this corner. I didn't do this right. You hear most of the other drivers will have some kind of ownership of what they might have done wrong, even if the car's not performing well. Lewis, a lot of times blames the car too. I get that, but
Yeah.
Max, I've never heard him ever say he did anything wrong.
No.
It's always the car, it's always the other driver, it's always the track, it's always the weather, it's always something else and not him. That he never will say, even today, well, the penalties, they're going to be assessed.
Yep.
Like,
even in the car, he said when JP told him about the second 10 seconds, which hallelujah, we'll talk about that in a second. But he said at that point, he said, okay, what about him? He wanted penalty for Lando. He's not taking responsibility.
Yeah.
He's just saying, okay, what about Lando? He should get one too. Like, well, no, they didn't find fault with Lando.
And that's the thing that rubs me with Max. Like there's so many things that were starting to make endear me, and there's things that went up, but then that's what bothers me. It's like what really got me. One of the things that attracted me to F1 is there's a level of sportsmanship that I appreciated and professionalism that I appreciated with these drivers. And then you've got this guy that just seems to just be this pompous jerk. I'm trying not to cuss because I'm trying to keep away from the filter this time. But just, like, come on, guy. Like, admit your fault. Admit that you are infallible. Come on.
He does seem to get one if he's not winning or doesn't see a way that he's going to win. He does seem to either get dangerous or he just sits back and complains. Like you said, it's one or the other.
Or both, like today.
Or both. Yeah, definitely not the race he was thinking, he was going to get, but he did it to himself. And I was honestly a little bit shocked. I feel like a lot of times the stewards don't penalize him or don't penalize Red Bull. And so when that first one came across, I was like, oh, what? But then when the second one came across, I literally jumped. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. 20-second penalty, and watching the pit crew wait for their moment. I was like, somebody please touch the car. Somebody touch the car.
I know.
Somebody please touch the car.
They're like, if they go too soon, they'll have to reserve it. Oh, please.
Yeah, that must have been the longest 20 seconds of their life. The pit stop itself was 24 seconds. So I don't know if they went longer or once they did the 20 seconds, he still had a 4-second pit stop. I mean, it was not great. Not great. So, well. Checo. Oh, my God. Okay, first of all, I think we talked about this last week. There was the rumors going around that Checo was going to announce his retirement. He probably should have maybe just done that. I don't think that they're going to give him the seat next year. He's out of compliance with his contract for this year, which I'm sure his contract for next year probably has something as well. But he was already 200 points behind Max. His contract only allowed him to be 100 points behind Max. And I think it was a certain number of places behind him in the World Driving Championship.
There's no more than 5.
No more than 5. Okay. I don't even know where he's at right now with that. But he was 200, and he finished dead last today because he went in and bolted on tires to try to get the fastest lap, and Charles snuck it out from underneath him at the last second. So he finished 17th and further behind Max.
He is 212 points behind Max.
Yeah.
And he is 7 places behind Max.
It's not going to cut it. I mean, first of all, okay, I don't even know where to begin with Checo. Out in Q1 in qualifying. What in the world? Like, okay, that's not great. Then today lines up ahead of the line on his grid box. Mind you, he did have some good drives. He had some good moves, but he also had a little bit of a head start. So immediately has a penalty. He's fighting with Liam Lawson, who supposedly Liam Lawson flipped him off at some point during one of their battles today, which is not a good look for Liam. Like, he needs to slow down.
Liam
Settle down.
is so aggressive.
He like, I mean, remember last weekend he was going after Fernando. Like, he was all over Fernando, and then today battling with Checo. I thought at one point didn't Checo. I thought maybe he had a puncture or something, but he didn't. He got through it. It just was not the weekend that he wanted, not the weekend he wants for his home race. Like, it was just sad all the way around. And once again, Max is the only Red Bull getting points for their constructor. Checo, nowhere close.
Nope.
Nowhere close. So, yeah, they're definitely going to end up third in the constructor.
And let's just go from Red Bull to the rest of their team. You know, because it's one team, as we were talking about. It's not two teams. And they have 4 drivers. They have 4 drivers on the grid. This is ridiculous because, you know, and Liam lost time. I see him right now as he's got talent. He's got amazing talent. But if, like you said, if he doesn't calm down and watch it, he's going to turn into be hated as much as Max, because he's got an attitude. And it's not a good attitude, because he's coming in there almost like he's trying to get that seat so hard and so fast that he's stepping on toes of people he doesn't need to be stepping on. Yeah. I mean, that is not right. I mean, yeah, he can fight it out and fight it out the right way out there, but to be mouthy and whatnot to these other drivers that have been out there for 400 races. Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's uncalled for.
Part of me is kind of like, is it something that like a Helmut Marko, aka Chatty Cathy, that Horner, that they like to see? Because Red Bull is they're pretty cutthroat. Like, they will, I mean, they ditch drivers, out you go, you know, we're bringing somebody else in. Is that something that they're like, oh, okay, like he really wants it? Or would you look at it differently if you're Red Bull? Like, why are you coming after a senior driver like Checo? And not even talking about Alonso last week, and that's not their team, but like, why are you flipping off the senior driver at Red Bull? Like, you're the junior dude, and you just got here. You're racing for 5 races this season. I appreciate that you can jump in and make some noise and, you know, get some points or whatever, but dude.
Yeah, and then as I was telling you, because I missed the fact that he had gotten some damage when he went off there at the end of the race to pit, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're pulling this crap again that they did with Danny, to go and pull the fastest lap from Lando, because Max is trying to salvage every point he possibly can. And then, you know, he got the puncture, but sure enough, they put on soft, and sure enough, he went and got a fast lap. That's like, okay, great. You know, he ultimately did not keep it, but it just, and then Checo went to get it, and that makes sense. A Red Bull car doing it, but it really is a Red Bull. I mean, and then I showed you that picture of the 4 of them doing stuff together, and as you pointed out, they do stuff together as a team. So why F1 and FIA do we allow this team of 4 drivers to operate as technically 2 teams, but it's really one team, but yet you won't let another team into the lineup? Because this, and they are helping each other out. So this is not fair to the rest of the grid. This is just,
no, it's not, because they can strategically work together. And if Yuki had been there, I mean, Yuki was out on the first lap. That just sucked. But like, I mean, you would have 4 drivers out there trying to make sure that Lando did not get the fastest lap.
No, and they have basically 2 F1 drivers in one team that they can use to seed the 2 F1 drivers in their other team, so they can get their money however they, you know, balance out their money, where everyone else has to have junior drivers and F2, F3 reserve drivers, you know, they're training up. They get to train up 4 drivers at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. Anyway.
They can definitely.
Yuki going out, I felt so bad for him. Like, just,
He's had, I mean, I feel like from Barcelona, maybe not totally Barcelona on, but I mean, the last several races have just not gone his way. And a lot of times today it was kind of aggressive going up the side. And then you had Alex here, and then Pierre was on the other side of Alex, and he moved in towards Alex. And like, Yuki, I don't know. He just has had a really rough go of it. It's just not good.
You wonder about their cost cap, because that's been a lot of.
That's true. Yeah, he's had quite a few. Again, a lot of them not his fault, but yeah, that's not great. But then on the other end, Alex Albon, I mean, we talked about that earlier where he's had a lot, but Franco, again, he finished 12th, and he even got a penalty at the end, and he still finished 12th. So like, he wasn't good. I don't think he was in the points even before the penalty, but dang. And so there were rumors this week going around that Franco was offered a contract to be the reserve driver at VCARB. And I was telling you, I'm like, I don't get that. Like, why would Williams let him go to VCARB and be a reserve driver? Like, why wouldn't Williams just keep him as part of their academy team, and he could be the reserve driver at Williams? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And after the race today, Franco said, I don't know what they're talking about. There's nothing like that. He's like, I don't anticipate being in F1. He's like, but I hope I'm doing enough to show them for 2026 or 2027 that somebody will have me come in. And I thought, he's so mature. Like, he very much understands. Like, so to me, either he's fully downplaying the open Sauber seat, or, whatever. But I know James has been like really pushing, the Sauber people, like, hey, look at Franco. But to me, maybe that's not working out. They said they're not making any announcements till mid-November for Sauber, but that's so smart though. Like, yes, you're doing your job now. You're playing the long game. So he may be something completely different next year. And then 26, 27, he'll be back. So I think those rumors are just that. They're rumors.
It's interesting, though, that he says that, because Piastri came out and said, Helmut Marko will just say whatever, because, you can't just listen to Helmut Marko's ramblings, because there was the rumor that Piastri was being, talked to and basically going to possibly get in the seat at Red Bull. It's like, I have a contract. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with McLaren. And he's like, Helmut, you can't listen to everything that Helmut Marko says. So I wonder if some of that also comes from Helmut about Franco coming over to VCARB, because, like you said, Chatty Cathy.
Yeah,
he's rambling.
Jibber jabbers. He just yaps at people all day long. And I did not understand the Oscar. Thank you for bringing that up, because I forgot about it. Because I was like, what? That is stupid. Why would Oscar jump from McLaren?
Who's
contract. McLaren, who's number one constructor right now, to go to third place constructor Red Bull and partner up with Max. Like, no, you're not going to. They're never going to let you battle Max like they do let you battle Lando. It just makes zero sense. Like, somebody needs to check on Chatty Cathy.
Yeah,
like,
he's starting to.
I mean, he's in his 80s or whatever, but like, dude, stop speaking. Shut your yap. Like, it's time.
I think you told me that last year too.
He just talks way too much, and none of it makes sense. Like, does somebody go with him to these things? Like, if you ever notice, like, the drivers always have a representative from the team right off camera, and they've got a recorder. They're recording what's being said. So that way they have it in case something. Does Red Bull not send somebody with him to these podcasts and talking to these reporters? Like, goodness gracious, the man's in his 80s.
He needs a handler.
He needs a major handler.
Diane, that's a job you could do.
No, I would never work for Red Bull or for Chatty Cathy. It's not happening. Heck, I would be rolling my eyes so hard, my eyes would need like splints or something.
Diane would be cussing so much all the time. WTF? Like, What did you just say? No, 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 no.
I'd be doing the Friends thing, like, no, I could never. No, and I'm
Right.
not
Let's see
working.
who else. There's not a lot to say about
Oh, well,
Sauber.
okay. Yeah, who else?
Sauber.
Well,
There's not a lot to say about Sauber.
I mean, no.
No, she'll
I
never race.
thought for a second that Valtteri might get points. He was up there in like 10th place for a minute. He was out of position after qualifying. Like, yeah. But alas, they still have 0 points.
It
They
was,
finished 0 points. Was Joe even on the track? Never saw him. Never saw his car.
yeah. But
Not even once.
the only thing about Sauber and Bottas was, we talked about this, earlier. This, I don't even what day, my days are blending. That Bottas did say, they asked him, was he considering going back to Mercedes as a reserve driver? And he said, well, his goal wasn't staying an F1 driver, and he was really trying to secure that F1 driver's seat. But he was definitely considering that as well, that he would consider going back to Mercedes and being a reserve driver and going back to the Mercedes family. So I guess if he can't secure an F1 seat, he'll be going back to Mercedes and being the reserve driver, with Kimi, going up to the F1 seat. So that'll be interesting to
Mick's
find
their
out.
reserve driver, so Mick would be out of job.
Yeah. So that's an interesting play. Like, oh my gosh, it truly is silly season this year. So
But I mean, it's just so sad because Valtteri is so underutilized. I mean, the Sauber is just, it's been a nothing car for at least a couple of years. And last year was a little slightly more competitive because they had points. But this year, I mean, what Valtteri, it's like we all forgot how good Valtteri was when he was with Mercedes and he was number 2 to Lewis. And I mean, it's just a shame. It's a shame. But yeah, they were nowhere. I feel like Alpine.
Alpine. I was thinking the same thing. Alpine. The Alpine, the big thing I think, is just Gasly. I mean,
caused an issue with Albon and Yuki on the first turn. I did a reel on that right after it happened, and I hashtagged Pierre Gasly. I did not call him out in the caption, but I did hashtag him as a reminder that we all know what happened. And Ocon, I don't even remember also seeing him past him leaving pit row when they started, because he started in the pit.
Because he had to exchange 2 things that were out of compliance, so that put him in the pit.
Yeah.
Aston Martin, we talked about Alonso earlier. He had to retire his car. Stroll got passed by a bunch of people today. So
yeah, absolutely. He was not great. Who else? Mercedes. I mean, they're very consistent, right there, 4th, 5th place. They're like ready. They're ready for something to happen, and let's see where it goes.
Did not crash in the race, so that was good.
He did not, and there was a nice little battle with Lewis and George, and Lewis ended up passing him finally. I thought he was going to back off for a while. I would say Haas is one that's surprising me.
Yes.
Like, they both were in the points. I think it's Kevin's highest finish this season. Yeah, and I mean, they're just racking up the points. Like, they're 5th place?
Big difference from last year, right? I mean, just drastically different.
It's amazing. So, I mean, today I was thinking, okay, remember Ocon's going over there. Ollie's going to be racing, so it's going to be Ollie and Esteban. And I thought Esteban's got to be so happy that, like, seeing where this car is right now and how well they're doing. They are the smallest team on the grid. They barely have any employees. Like, it's a small group, and they are just doing amazing. So to have double points today lifts them even higher. Like, good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
I like
it's interesting for them, and I don't know if it would have turned out differently. Before we go and talk about our top couple of teams, there is that I just want to harp on my pet peeve about qualifying.
Yes.
That in Q3, we had, or was it Q2? Yeah, in Q2, right? Everybody had gone back to the pit, resting on their laurels, that, like, we're going to go do our flyers, and so of course Haas was in the top 10 at that point, but You know, some of our players were like, "Oh, we're just going to go out get our flyers in the end," you know. And then Yuki crashed out when there was 10 seconds left on the clock, and so many were in their flyers, but they could not improve their time, and several were on good times that they would have popped up. And I think, you know, there's a lot of excitement in that, and I don't think it's purposely that they're trying to get that excitement, but then again, some of them want to get that last. I like, why is it you got to be the last one to get the thing and get it in first?
Track evolution. They want to be that last car going across. Haas, they had just crossed right like a seconds before Yuki crashed. So it was just placement. Like they came out of the pits probably ahead in the line of everybody else. And yeah, you want
Smart to get out there early. Smart to get out there early. Just saying.
It definitely is. I would agree.
I think we covered everybody except for our McLaren and
So Oscar did not have a great weekend overall.
Who?
Oscar. He was out in Q1.
Yeah. Oscar. Like he had a track time deleted, right?
Yeah, he had a track time deleted.
He was doing pretty good overtaking and getting caught up pretty good. I mean, in the race today, he was fighting pretty hard.
Yeah.
He had the sauciest radio transmission today that I've heard all season. I think it is. I forget what he said, but he pretty much, I'll have to go find it. I wish I'd grabbed it before we got on here, but he said something. It was like the most aggressive and saucy I've ever heard him on the radio about like whatever was going on. And I was like, Oscar.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's just because of just, I know what it was. It was before they called him out to box to change his tires, and he was just caught up in all that mess, and people are, passing him. Hamilton was about to get around him. He's just like, basically, he wanted to get him out of that mess. He's like, when are we going to get me out of this mess like this? And he cussed too. He's like, he was frustrated. He was like, when are we going to get me out of this mess? Because he's like, I can't go anywhere. I'm getting past. He wanted to get off the tires. He didn't do anything at that point because he was starting to lose pace so badly.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was the most frustrating. Yeah, I know. It was the most frustrated I've ever heard him on the radio, and I was shocked. That's why it hit me. I'm like, Oscar? Whoa.
He's usually the most chill like person in the world. I do now kind of remember that happening because I remember thinking like, yeah, he's not used to being down here. So it just was not his weekend overall. And Lando, like, I mean, he was kind of staying right there, but today, oh my gosh, when he finally was in third, I kept watching the time and I was like, how many laps are left? Okay, now there's only 3 seconds to Charles. How many laps are okay? Now he's 2 seconds to Charles. Now he's 1.5 seconds to Charles. Now he's 0.6 seconds. I was like, are you kidding me?
And they were telling Charles, we need your best racing now. Like they're like, you need to push it.
Yeah. And Carlos had said, like, we're pushing too hard. Like, we don't have to. And this is when I think Charles still had like a 5-second gap to Lando. And even the announcers were like, no, Charles needs to keep moving because that McLaren is quick. And sure enough, man, dang, Lando caught him. And then when Charles had that snap, and he said in the cool down room, which is one of my favorite parts of the day, he watched it and he was pointing to Carlos. He's like, watch this. And he said, it was so close. It was so like him hitting the wall was so close. Like how he saved that, I have no idea.
Not just that, but all the signs that were down the road that he skirted past them. If you really go back and look, I don't know if you saw it, but there was like all those little signs and stuff all the way.
Yeah.
He skirted between the wall and those, like just fit down there perfectly. It was insane. But I mean, I was watching between that and the timing because we've got stuff going on here. So I was watching the race on my phone, but at my timing up on the laptop. And I was like watching it and I looked up to look at the timing. I'm like, 0.01, a swap. Oh, did he pass? And then I saw that it was actually because Charles did the flick.
Yes.
Like, whoa.
Yes.
The craziest thing.
It was crazy. And I mean, that was the thing that Lando needed. That's what he needed. I was hoping for another Ferrari 1-2, and it was just a flip of, like the last week. But yeah, I'm just glad that Charles kept it out of the wall. But
Yeah.
Lando, like that was major. He needed that. And we'll talk about points here for the WDC in just a second. But for Ferrari, it was Carlos's weekend. He just like I know when he's on, he's on. Like it is just like that. You can see it from the get-go. He feels comfortable. He's way faster than everybody else. And it did not surprise me that he had the fastest lap twice in Q3 yesterday. Like there was no doubt that he was going to get on pole to me. Like for me, I knew he was going to make it. It was incredible.
He was awesome. Let me put these up now then, because these are awesome. So you've got, there we go.
Another double podium for Ferrari, Carlos winning. So here's, I mean, I was going to share this fun stat, but Ferrari is the only team this season to have both of their drivers be on pole. No other teams have done that. And now both drivers have won multiple races this year. Like, that's an incredible year. What Charles has like 3 wins. This is Carlos's second. Like, I think this is the first time since the 90s or maybe early 2000s. Kimi Räikkönen and who was his partner? It's been a while since they've had that happen where both drivers have had multiple wins in a season. So here's my thing. Like, and we could talk about this with the constructors too, but we talk about like football or baseball or basketball in the US, and you want to be peaking at the right time, right? Like you don't want to be on your game at the beginning of the season and then you're all just out of it at the end of the season. Ferrari has turned it around. They are so on top of it. We've got 5 races left and they have put themselves in an amazing position. Like absolutely insane. They are peaking at the right time. And I just hope the next 4 races, we just finish these out strong. Absolutely strong.
Yeah, I think you will. So if they've been
Magnussen in 7th.
Great year to be a Ferrari fan, right?
Yeah, it's always good to be a Ferrari fan.
Well, one thing I want to know about Oscar, though, if you look at this, he started down from, remember, he didn't make it out of Q1. And look, he finished P8.
Nice job, Oscar. Way to go. Ooh, and Pierre Gasly getting a point. I don't think I realized that.
Yeah.
And Kevin outperformed Nico. Incredible.
That was a great finish.
Yeah.
Great finishes. All right. Then we have, of course, it's all red. Look at that. Driver of the day, pole to win. I don't think we've had a lot of that this year. I haven't seen that much. The pole winner actually wins too.
Well, did Charles have pole? No, Charles did not have pole in Austin, but Lando did because he won pole to pole because that a couple races back. So we've had it a couple times. Maybe.
Not a lot though. Not a lot. All right. So I get these obviously from F1 and we don't know what it is. We're recording like 4 hours after the race is over and they have not posted the driver standing graphic that's so pretty. So this is from the website on the right. It's ugly, but it is what it is. Look at those points. Look at that. So we've got a constructor swap. Red Bull is now 3rd in the constructors.
Whoop, whoop. Ferrari moving on up.
Isn't that crazy? Look at that.
Yeah. And look at how close. So you have McLaren with 566, Ferrari with 537. Ferrari could maybe still like do something if we keep doing this. And then you've got Red Bull in 3rd with 512. All 3 of those teams are like way on it. And 4th place drops to 366. So it is a 3-way battle.
Yeah.
Right now. Although I will say, I don't think that Red Bull is going to win the constructor. I mean, when you only have one car that's putting up points, I just do not see it.
No,
I just don't.
And I don't see any other. I mean, Haas and Vicar, that's the only other battle, and then Williams and Alpine, right? But look at Haas compared to last year. Look at them up there, 6th
place. That's incredible.
They've got to be so happy.
That's money that they desperately need because, again, they are the smallest team on the grid. They don't have a ton of money. They don't have the resources like these other bigger teams have. So to be in 6th place, that money is going to be well used by that team. Yeah. So good for them. And they've got now that, is it Toyota that they're paired up with, Gazoo or whatever, Toyota Gazoo. I just always think of the little Martian from the Kazoo. So, I mean, that is all going to go a long way. So good for Haas. That's incredible. But it's going to be a battle these next 4 races. I mean, especially if you have both McLaren and Ferrari drivers constantly getting points, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, the difference with like Max and Lando, like Lando gained what was 11 points on him?
Yeah, there's only 47-point difference now, and it was
54.
54. Yeah, is that right? 54. And then Leclerc.
It was 50. It was more than that. It was 57, and now it's 50. Now it's 47 or something like that. Because he gained like 10 or 11 points.
Yeah. Leclerc lost out a few points. I think he was only 8 points away from Lando last weekend. But, you know, I mean, he's still right there. That's too bad.
And look at Charles. I mean, Charles, what is it, 291 to 315?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is like he was 8 points different. Now it's not horrible. Piastri 251, but now you've kind of got Carlos gaining on him. Now there's only 11 points with Carlos at 240. So, you know, that Carlos gained a few places today. So, or not places, but a few points cut into that. 50. So, ooh, it's getting good. It's getting good. This is the way
good. So, I kept that one because we were talking about that's so cute. I love the camaraderie even between the teams.
Yes. So this happened after, if you're not on our YouTube, this happened after the race when the teams always have their photos with the whole garage. And I guess like Zach Brown photobombed the Ferrari team picture. And so Sainz had to do the favor back, you know, so he photobombed the McLaren team photo. And it's cute. Like everybody's laughing and they're having fun. And I like to see that. I like to see the teams enjoying each other and being playful with each other. And I mean, Sainz, McLaren was his old team. He was a McLaren driver a few years back. So that's kind of a fun thing. And obviously Carlando, I mean, you know, Lando and Carlos are friends. So
Carlando.
Okay, next week, the end of our three races, and it's a sprint race weekend.
Yeah, sprint race, man. It's going to be crazy. It starts early here on the East Coast in the US. It's going to be in the morning.
I think it's 10 a.m., but so it should be 8 a.m. your time for the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'll be a 2-hour time difference, I think. Well, yeah, I never know. Maybe.
I'm not actually East Coast. I'm Central, so it's a 1 hour time difference.
Oh, it'll be 1 hour. Okay, so that's not too bad
right now.
I mean, Brazil is another one of those tracks where it just seems like there's always a lot that's happening, and we've got the sprint race, so there's extra points on the line for the top 8 in the sprint, and every point counts. Every point counts. So. I'm excited. I cannot wait for this next race. Like fingers crossed.
Yeah, and then we're down to just a few more after that, right? It's just winding down. We've got a couple. Is it 1 weekend or 2 weekends off in between?
Let's see. I feel like it was 2. I thought it was a couple, and then don't we have another 3-peat to end?
Well, let's see. I'll look at it now. So we have Brazil.
Yeah.
And then that's the first, and there's 3 weekends because the next one after that's the 21st. So that's the 1st through the 3rd, and the next one after that's the 21st, the 23rd in Vegas. Oh. And then you have the 29th and 1st in Qatar.
And then Abu Dhabi
yeah.
Okay, so we'll have 3 weeks off. Ugh, I'm tired of the 3-week breaks. Come on.
Let's just get this done.
I know.
I feel like this year has been long.
It's been long for us as fans. Can you imagine the teams and the drivers? Like, especially it's been a long season, and then you've got 3 races in a row. Austin, Mexico, now you're going to Brazil. Then you've got a couple weeks off, and then you're heading right into Christmas when they're finishing up. And they've always got their end of the year FIA thing right before Christmas. It's a lot. What a long year. And then they'll be back in January with January or February. So a few teams start to do release their liveries in January. And supposedly this next year, because it's an FIA big year anniversary. And so, or F1, I can't remember. But supposedly several teams are going to do their liveries like at the same time. So it's like a big event. So
that'll be nice. So we're not having to go through multiple events.
I know.
That's exhausting in itself.
It is. But we're getting there. We're getting towards the end of the year, and they cannot be making it any more exciting.
Yeah, it's been, we gotta come up with other words, man. I did say crazy this time, so there we go.
Exciting.
It was a crazy one. Well, we've had another long one this time because man, that was a lot to talk about because there was just again a crazy race and lots happening, but it was fun and your Ferrari won.
Forza Yay. Yay.
All right. Well, we're on to one more before a short little break and then we wrap up the season. So that's about it.
All right. See you later.
See you. Thanks for coming along. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind the scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.